Long before the marriage, I was a solitary woman living a quiet life in a small town. While I was trying to complete the shortcomings of my life, the man I met impressed me. He was tall, calm, and very kind. At first, I thought he was overly withdrawn. However, over time, that stillness transformed into a reassuring simplicity in my eyes. He seemed like the safe harbor I had been searching for all my life. When I met him, I didn't ask much about his past. When I did ask, he carefully chose his words and never rushed to answer. "It's better to leave the past behind," he would say, and I chose to believe him. Our marriage began in quiet happiness. He was a very organized person. He would leave for work early and return home on time in the evenings. By the end of the month, all bills were carefully paid. We had no financial issues. He was excellent with numbers and always handled our affairs perfectly. He was very insistent about going to church every Sunday. At first, I appreciated this habit, but over time, it became an obsession for him. His prayers were always the same. Sometimes I would think he spoke like a sinner. One time, after praying, he came to me with tears in his eyes and asked, "Is there a sin that God cannot forgive? If a sinner is truly remorseful, will God forgive him no matter the sin?" Without waiting for my response, he added, "No one deserves forgiveness." Those words unsettled me, but I didn't have the courage to ask what he meant. He also had some odd habits. For instance, he was extremely sensitive about family photos. Our home was impeccably organized, but he never allowed any photos to be hung on the walls. When I suggested gifting him an album, I saw a brief shadow of fear cross his face. Immediately, he tried to change the subject. That day, I realized it was best not to press this matter further. As time passed, the warmth from the early days of our marriage faded. He still treated me with the same care, but I felt I couldn't truly connect with him. He had built a wall, and I didn't know what lay behind it. One day, when he came home, there was a strange look in his eyes, as if his inner world had completely changed. No matter how much he tried to remain calm, I could feel that something was unraveling inside him. In that moment, I knew something was wrong, but I couldn't understand what. The man who had been with me for years felt like a stranger. When the police came to our home that day, everything fell into place. He didn't resist when they arrested him. I can't quite describe what I felt at that moment. Was it fear? No. Was it anger? Maybe. But what I truly felt was a deep emptiness. The only thing he said to me was, "Forgive me," but how could I forgive him? When the police told me that the man had killed his family years ago, my world fell apart. The years I had spent trying to understand who he really was suddenly became meaningless. The man I thought protected me, cared for me, and loved me had killed another woman and her family. Since that day, I never visited him again. I read about the trial in the newspapers. Even when he was sentenced to 5 consecutive life sentences, I didn't feel any relief. The pain he caused in the past was far more unbearable than his punishment. This story didn't only ruin his life, it ruined mine as well. Every night, before going to sleep, I searched for an answer. How could a person coldly and deliberately build to lives? But I never find an answer. If I had known his past, would I have loved him? Could I have trusted him? Those questions no longer matter to me, because it turns out I had been chasing a ghost. I was married to a ghost all my life, but from now on, neither his past nor my regrets will enslave my soul.